of the thought, the totality of vision, the totality of understanding, but it's the reverse. The lowest aspect of light becomes revealed first. The lowest becomes revealed first. That means when first contact is made with the light in Keta, you would say, well, if Keta can handle all the light, and it can, why? Because of its affinity with the light, right? So therefore, Keta should contain the infinite degree of understanding, infinite degree of light, and Malchut should be the one having the least amount of understanding. In other words, yeah, that's true. The feet should contain the least amount of knowledge, and it does, because it's further removed in a physical sense, and also Malchut in a metaphysical sense. Consciousness, because is there consciousness in the feet? Of course there is. The feet are only 0.1% physical. What's the rest? Intelligence. So even in feet, you can talk to feet. One day we'll talk to our feet. That's the way we'll cure if we have any problems in feet. But let me tell you, if you don't talk to the feet and you have a problem, you'll never get a cure, no matter how many pills you take, no matter how much other stuff you take. You'll never cure the problem of the feet because you've got to talk to it. You know, like this, you're bombarding it with a lot of stuff, and it's asking, why are you doing this to me? You speak to it.
There's a whole medical thing called reflexology, where the treatment of the ills of the body are done through.
Right. It's a good beginning, but it's on such a low level. It's on such a low level. Reflexology is not what we're that's right. It has to do with the feet. It has to do with the feet. It does not involve what we just spoke. So he's telling us here a paradox that despite the energy, thought, intelligence of Keta, which can embrace all of the light, the first contact with light will not be the degree of the highest, of the all-embracing light, but that lower amount. It's like the bulb, the 5-watt bulb, coming in contact with the light. What does it actually take? 5 watt. Generator takes more. In the beginning of this process, Keta takes what? The least amount. It takes ora nefesh. We have another expression. When we want to distinguish a 5-watt bulb with a generator, we say, if that's the least amount of expression of current, if let's say it's 5 watt, it could be 1 watt maybe. But if that's the least expression, then we say the light that was revealed in that vessel is the least or the lowest degree of what the light actually can express itself. The least. Yet Malchut is the desire to receive. Where we learned previously, where the greatest desire to receive is located, the greatest amount of revelation. Do you remember that too? And now we're being taught so many paradoxes that in the beginning, when things begin, when you get your first thought about doing something, the first thought, and this is the way we generally work, we get a thought, then we work on that thought, we develop the thought, all before we go into a project, the physical project. It's all on the drawing boards. An idiot goes into the project without thinking out the totality of this project. So you develop it and develop it. What we're actually talking about is Keter to Malchut. When a normal individual thinks out something, he's going from Keter, from the flash. This is a good idea. I'll go into a home center business. A thought. Now it's all over with. On the contrary, if he doesn't think about how he's going into it, but he opens up a store and puts everything into that store without having thought about it, then he's an idiot. Got to think about it. There's so many things you've got to think about. All these thoughts come later. All these thoughts become manifest later. But what's in Keter? Everything. The widest circle. And yet, he's telling us right here, that when I have this thought, when I'm making contact, because what's thought? Thought is its purest sense. Before I began to rationalize the thought, it's that muskal rishon. It's that first thought I had. The thought that did not have the fully developed idea. Is that right? What comes first? The fully developed idea or the thought of the idea? The thought. I want to open up this kind of a business. Then comes the thinking process, how to develop this business, how to open up the business. But the first idea is thought. That is called nefesh. It's the one that has the most concealment or the least amount of light. Why? Keter can handle everything. So I said to some degree, so to begin to bring you into this idea, that when the light becomes in contact with the vessel, if it was overwhelming and it flooded the total vessel, there would be too much of a contrast because vessel is desire to receive.
So, when you reach the Malchut of Keter, like you were saying, so the desire is minimum. Is the Or Choser of that Malchut of Keter that is not that minimal, and therefore is that the point of the affinity with the next vessel to receive that Or Choser?
You mean of Chachma?
Yes.
Yes, that's the seed in the tree, in the fruit, right? Or that's
the seed at the point of being activated. No, we're not even
activated.
Yes.
I can say yes because Keter is total thought, energy, intelligence. It's like the seed, no activity.
Yeah, but like you were saying, you can leave a seed on
and there'll be no activity.
That is correct. So we're talking at that point where
that's
it transforms itself from the potential
to the actual
creative process.
Right.
So the is it the Or Choser of the Malchut of Keter that is kind of diminished and therefore more appropriate for the vessel to receive it, and therefore is that the place of affinity, or I am just out of my
I don't know if everybody understands what you're trying to say. The answer is yes, but it wouldn't be a totally correct answer. The answer is yes, because within any aspect of between potential and actual, the point that joins or where you leave potential into actual is always Malchut. This is the paradox. And yet Malchut is the one that doesn't get any of the light. And yet it's the focal point. What is Keter of Keter? Nothing, really. Yet it's everything, I guess. But from one perspective, Without Malchut, you have nothing. We've gone through that often enough. Without Malchut, without a desire to receive, there can never be a manifestation. A person who thinks going into a particular business is a great idea, but if he hasn't got a drive because he wants to make money or he wants something out of that project, no matter how great the idea is, it will never become or leave the potential and become actual. There's got to be a driving force, which is the desire to receive. He wants more money. He wants something out of this particular project. If that I want or I need something out of this particular project did not exist, that thought of a great idea would never become actual or become manifest. So obviously that is correct. The question is, where is all of this energy located? In Malchut? Or is it located in Keter? When we observe the pebble hitting the water, we say the greatest amount of energy that becomes revealed is not at the point of impact, point of Malchut, the point of where the water has received, right? But the potential receiving, because when it passes through the air, doesn't it pass? And let's say I'm a good aimer and I hit the water dead center. So has the pebble passed over water to get to that dead center point? Yes. And in fact, it must have had some reaction with the outer layers, because how come the outer layers, number one, become outer layers? In other words, the ones closest to the shore will be the biggest circles, where there is the least amount of impact, and obviously, if you observe it, was probably the first contact with the pebble. Where did the first contact take place with the pebble?
The outer layer.
The outer layer, the one closest to the shore. That was the first contact. Sure, it was only potential. But what do you mean potential? 99%. That's a big figure. The illusionary physical contact was in the middle. Malchut. But we know that something happened. It couldn't reach the middle if it didn't pass over the outer layer. Logical. Does that mean nothing happened from the point of where I stand on shore until it reaches the middle, Malchut? Nothing happened before then? Wrong. If it's on a physical level, physical reality, of course nothing seemed to have happened until it hit in the middle. But to say therefore nothing happened? No, because where is everything really? Thought. And in thought, that outer layer, the circle closer to the shore, already had premonition, already captured the full impact of what was going to happen later. Does that really happen?
Well, look where the
Of course, it really doesn't happen. You know how I know that? Because when I look at GM, I say, where did it really happen? At the plants. Take a look at all the people. That's where the action took place. Nothing happened before, right? It all happens where the people are. I mean, nobody thought of, putting this together. Oh, of course someone thought about it. So in other words, the real stuff happened where? Not in the physical plant, not with the physical people. This is the most difficult thought or idea to become reconciled with. We understand it fully, but we can't live and practice it. It's difficult. Why is it difficult? Everybody understands it, because for those who have been accustomed to our educational system, the physical reality is the real thing. So how could they even begin to believe or think that something happens before the physical reality becomes the physical reality? On the other hand, the paradox, they tell us everything happens before. the physical reality became manifest. You've got to think first. So which is it? What comes first? The answer is always, whether I see it or I don't see it, don't get stuck in the mud. Don't get stuck in the idea that only what is physical is real. Because everything begins first with keta. Nothing becomes manifest unless there is keta. Now, what does that mean, keta? Where the least amount of desire to receive is manifest. The least, called keta. Now, why is he telling us that when keta comes into being, because it has 10 stages, in other words, when you dial the telephone, you don't get to 0, your finger got to go into what? 1. Then you come to 0, right? No? Not anymore? Now it's all push buttons. No, but I still think it's based on that system, no? I mean, I don't think push buttons has changed anything.
You have 2 systems. You have rotary
Right.
push button, and
And
you have
the pulse, tone and rotary.
It still goes to the pulse.
There, nothing has really changed other than the ability to transfer it quickly, more quickly. What goes quicker, the rotary or the
pulse.
the pulse?
Much faster.
Pulse goes faster.
It's as fast as...
Right. Why? Why? Because less choma. You know, we're getting the answers not only for the telephone system. We're getting the answers for our own lives too. You know what I mean? All physics can do is explain systems on a physical reality level, but they never move it out of that 1%, and that's our problem. That's why here we can't reconcile that we understand both aspects of the same thing. We understand that the plants, the physicalness, is where the action is. And yet, wait a second, of course, this couldn't be if that wasn't. What's more important? Obviously, if you don't think about something, it never happens. When you think about something, you make it happen. But it doesn't work the other way around, that the thing happened, and then you think about it. So it's obvious that thought, keta, is the first stage. Now let's understand the other aspect. He says that before things become manifest, even in the brain, because again, there's got to be a final thought. You've got to think through everything before you begin to make it manifest. The first thought is keta. As the first thought becomes developed, we don't see anything. When do you see everything? At the end, not at the beginning. But stop here and think about it for a moment. Look at the paradox. You just said that keta contains everything. That's why it's the biggest circle. In fact, the physical reality, how big is the circle? Almost no circle. Almost nothing. Where's the real thing? Where's the most? The outer circle. And the outer circle has not even been fully developed. I mean, I didn't think about anything yet. Because first comes nefesh. First comes the least amount of the totality. Because nefesh is called the least expression of the force. The least expression of the force. So that comes to keta. Keta should get it all. And Malchut should get it at the least. It is so. It is so. If you only remember...
The Masach,
No, nothing to do with the Masach. We are talking now before Malchut. Right, we're talking about Keta and Chachma. The initial flash, right. We also must always remember in this computer... What's that?
99%?
Right.
I didn't hear.
The 99%. When can light really become manifest?
Or has a vessel.
When it has not only a vessel,
Desire.
but a vessel with the greatest intensity of desire to receive in any framework. In any frame. Without the greatest desire to receive becoming manifest, you don't get light. Because the thought of the Creator was to share. When can there be sharing? I don't want to review all of Volume 1 again. But when can there be the greatest revelation of light, of energy? Depending on the desire to receive. Now, what comes first? Keter or Malchut? Keter must come first. We said why Keter comes first. Because Malchut would not come about if it didn't go through the stages. You remember where ultimately the desire to receive is developed in the 4 stages. So we understand that the desire to receive cannot come first. When does it really come? After it's lost. The whole process of the 4 phases, which everyone should have that again computerized, because that's the totality of any of the software. That's the totality. If that's not embedded and works like a computer without thinking anymore, it'll take time. But this is the ultimate. When you have those 4 phases, and you don't have to rehash and rethink again, the process, like the computer, right? When those 4 phases are embedded, everything instantly is understood. Instantly. Without the 4 phases, this was Rabbi Ashloch's great revelation, the 4 phases. Without the 4 phases, you have no computer. You haven't got the hardware. I say software because in comparison to the light, because actually the light is the hardware. It's the place where you tap all knowledge. Is the knowledge in the vessels? Where's the action? GM's great action is in the plants, or is it at corporate headquarters? Again, we'll go back and forth because we'll forget for a minute, right? What's the important part? So let us reconcile ourselves now. How does Keter become the house for no action, right? When I threw the pebble, did it pass first, Keter? Yes. No action. Nothing. Why? Because you need impact. Come on, if you need impact, so why over there is the smallest circle? It should be the biggest circle. I'm just reviewing again. So, you don't have to accept this answer, but if you have, in the absence of any other answer, you can say, well, I didn't see the interaction between the circle, which is at the shoreline, and the pebble, because there is no interaction until it hits. Before it hits, there's no circle. Shouldn't there be a circle there first? And if Keter is the largest and the most comprehensive vessel, it is closest to the light. It has the greatest capacity for light. Why wasn't that revealed first? Why wasn't it revealed first? Why wasn't it revealed first? We're accepting now the interaction between the pebble and the outer layer. Is that right? Maybe not.
Is it?
Not Malchut.
What?
It's
Not Malchut. It's not. There's no.
But is it there?
It's there, but it's the least clothed, so it's the light, so it's the hardest to see.
That's right. But let's understand it exists. The only point because tomorrow I'm afraid you're going to forget it again.
Of course.
Because what doesn't appear doesn't exist. And we know it's the opposite. What appears, chabdeu v'chashdeu. Don't be certain of its existence. What kind of a nut is this man over here? Yeah. But he says, you know what? I'm an Orthodox Jewish physicist. Uncertainty principle. I believe in it. Whatever you see in reality is uncertain. So I have at least, I'm not so crazy anymore because they're all saying it. Well, if they're all saying it, it must be Torah now, right?
We can't explain it. We can't explain
right.
why.
Can't explain why, so it must be right. So I agree with them. What you see and what becomes the physical reality, the first, if you could, and I do this, I do this in my own personal life. The moment I see something on a physical realm become manifest, I say it's absolutely an illusion. Now let me see if I can get to the bottom of everything. Wow. If you don't do that, you'll never get there. Because I'm a physicist. Uncertainty. Where could there be certainty? Maybe in the 99%. You know, in fact, that even sounds logical. Where would the certainty be? In the 1% or the 99%?
The majority.
In the majority. That's even logical. And I believe in that principle too. So, I'm saying that in Keter, in contact with the light, is totality. It's all there before it became manifest. In fact, as it goes on, it gets less and less. How do I know it's true? The pebble gets less and less. The circles are less and less. The closer I get to what? To Malchut. Impact. Reality.
Smaller, you mean?
Gets smaller. Reality is smaller.
I just want to point out again, the really, on a metaphysical level, the circles are being created before the pebble hits the water.
Like that footprint on the beach before he gets there. This is the answer. Right here, that they still haven't even begun to get a glimpse of what they're talking about, but they know already. They figured it out mathematically. That's the reality. The footprint is there. Now we understand. Of course the footprint is there before. He thought about being there on that beach in Los Angeles on that day. The footprint is there, but the plane doesn't leave until next Wednesday.
I wonder if we photograph it in a slow motion, if we'll see any action before the pebble
But that's
hits
what
the
we're
water.
doing here.
We're doing that right now.
No, with the camera.
Unfortunately, or even with Carillion, what was the new revelation of Carillion photography? That it was able to penetrate a layer of the metaphysical world. It could start seeing things that the eye didn't see. What's Carillion photography? Or to see magnetic fields around hands, around bodies.
Even when they're not there anymore.
But that's on a very low level. We're talking right at
The
Keter.
physical is not the,
Some low level.
What?
the person left.
Aren't we supposed to start from a low level? We go straight to the top.
This is the paradox. You got to go first. Your thought. What are you talking about? You're talking about building the plant, or you're talking about thinking about building the plant? Where are you?
Thinking.
If you're into thinking, you got to be first at Keter. If you're talking about the physical, be in the butts, be in Malchut. But don't make one terrible mistake. Don't get stuck in the mud. You know what I mean? Don't stay there. Don't you see? After the pebble gets stuck in the mud in Malchut, it gets out of it.
Yeah, but it's
Doesn't
nice,
it?
It's nice sometimes to have the physical,
To be in the mud.
thing that we relate to mostly, to compare with.
Wow.
And we're always talking about the metaphysical.
Nobody is here condoning or is against Malchut. Without Malchut, forget it, there's nothing. Without getting into the mud, you will never have anything. What we are trying to establish here is let us not be like all other people that say the end all of the reality is still the mud. That's all we're saying. If you don't take it out of that dimension, then you can never appreciate the physical world. Never. You're talking about appreciating the physical world. I mean, Hashem still created this world. This universe is beautiful. What man does to it is another matter. But within its own essence, take a look at the stars, the planet. I mean, everything where man can't really touch. The physical world is beautiful. We're not here to deny the physical world. We're not here to deny, like the Yari says, marry a beautiful woman. And the Gemara too. I mean, and it says that the Ari would never spend money on himself, by the way. Didn't care about clothes. So maybe that's why I don't go dress so well. You know what I mean? But my wife, spend all she wants. Ari says something like that. Because that's the real Malchut over there, right? But he didn't get hung up in it. Does that mean he didn't give his wife all the money? Do whatever you want, just make yourself beautiful. Yari.
Does she make
What?
He didn't need it. He knew that she needs it.
Oh, why?
Because
Why?
she's malchut.
Because she's Malchut.
Rabbi Berg, if she dressed well and she's beautiful, then she's beautiful to others. And
Yes.
Is that what we want?
Ah, is that what we want? Who's at Sadiq like our friend over here? Look, what can I tell you? You're probably right, but we haven't reached it yet. Little by little, little by little. Give us a chance. Give us a chance.
So this
Yeah. Zeri was just a poor working
What?
guy, right?
Huh?
This is not a
It
conspiracy
is.
against Malchut.
Depends on what
That's my
level.
question is.
Depends on what
It
level.
is.
That's right.
It is a
That's
conspiracy
It's a
right now.
conspiracy against
Of
Malchut.
course.
Is the original thought that you're talking about here, the flash, is that Mebchinat HaNefesh, or is it the unfolding of the thought that starts out Mebchinat HaNefesh?
Okay, we didn't get to that, but that's in essence. We're going to have to find here. I'm asking the paradox. Meanwhile, I mean, if it's he's telling us now, Rabbi Ashlag here says, what comes in first into Keta, not the totality,
Not the Yechidah, but
not the Yechidah. Okay, if you all understand the different levels, like the level between 5 watt and generator, we have names for those intelligences, right? Nefesh up to Yechidah. Naran Chai. Naran Chai, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechidah. These are names which we, only in Kabbalah, have names. That's the language of Kabbalah, which does not exist in physics, incidentally. If you speak to the top physicists of today, they will all tell you one thing. We have a problem because we have no language. Because what I see, I haven't got the word to explain to someone who didn't see it. We have language. Baruch Hashem. It's the greatest, one of the greatest developments in Kabbalah is the language of things that not everybody can see anymore, which prompted the uncertainty principle, because what I see, give me the word. I can't open up a Webster dictionary, because Webster's dictionary is based on things that exist in the physical realm. Now I want to explain something that I perceive under a microscope. Webster didn't have a microscope, and he couldn't observe all of the infinite. We have frameworks, words, big skut. They have words. So the question was, Keta can envelop and embrace everything, and what comes in first? Nefesh. Why?
like the man and his wife. Keter is the light.
In relation,
and the
yes.
nefesh is the malchut.
Right. But yet, doesn't the Keter contain everything? The Zeta, the sperm, contains everything. Right?
And it needs to be manifested.
But it has to become manifest. That's
It's
true.
like water in the glass. You pour it to the bottom first. You use
That's right. But it first passes through the upper layer. First passes through the upper layer, not the lower layer. Yeah, I'm going to have a coffee here. Well, it's getting... No, I want to go down a little.
A little mouthful.
Bagel. Everybody should say a bagel.
Right.
You mean a bagel?
Yeah, when they take off.
Right.
You know.
All right. Now the question is, why is there only nefesh? Why is there only nefesh when, in essence, Keter can embrace everything? And he told us why. שהנפש הזאת באה לו בכלי הכתר שהוא הכלי הזך יותר. והטעם שאין לו עוד אור הרוח, but why doesn't it have אור הרוח? Could it handle אור הרוח? Could it handle that next level of thought, energy, intelligence?
You mean Keter?
Keter? It could handle Yechidah. It could handle the highest amount of energy, the highest amount of
That's
Or.
not the question.
What?
But that's not the problem of handling. It's just, it needs the complete opposite in order to manifest, no?
Oh, that's it. The two malchuts have to come together.
Okay. But he's saying, "Vatam she'ein lo od or aruach." Why doesn't it have or aruach? Keter can handle it all. Why does it get only or nefesh at this stage when just Keter is revealed? That first thought,
Because of
thinking. מפני שהמסר שבקטע אין לו עוד שום אביות. What you were referring to before. About the Masach, the Or Chozeh, there's no aviut there. There's no mud. See, it's so pure, there's no mud. Right? Because we learned before,
Some corruption.
it doesn't have corruption. That's right.
In other words, to reveal light, you need darkness.
That's right.
Without darkness.
Without a malchut that says no, and therefore malchut stays what? In darkness, without light.
Wait,
That darkness, that corruption creates what? The manifestation of light. This is a real paradox, right? The mud makes manifest the light. Without the mud, there will be no light. Vafilu shel b'china aleph, it doesn't even have the avyut, because Keter is so pure, it does not even have the obvious, the corruption even of a b'china aleph. You know what b'china aleph means? Chachma, right? Where there was just a manifestation in the four phases of what? A vessel. Nothing more, because we say Keter is no vessel. Keter is only light. Chachma is the first ray of a vessel, but no desire to receive in B'china Aleph. In the first phase, there's nothing. It doesn't even have that.
What's aviut?
Density, thickness, corruption, mud, whatever name you want to give it to it. And because it does not have this B'chinat Aleph, ובחינת אור הרוח אינו משפוט אלא על ידי פגישת האור העליון במסד בחינה א', because that's the rule. When does light become revealed to its maximum? When it comes in contact with what? A vessel that desires, because there is no sharing unless what?
There is desire.
There is a desire. You give people things, and they have no desire for it. It's an exercise in futility. There must be a hungry person for the satisfaction of sharing to that hungry person. But share to a full satiated person, there is never a satisfaction of giving. The satisfaction of having given, sharing, does not exist.
Well, so it's like saying that darkness is the only thing that wants light.
Why? Because it doesn't have. Because it doesn't have. And that was the process of the four phases that Rabbi Ashlag revealed. That it must go out of necessity, come to a degree where what?
It's a need.
That you had it and lost it. And therefore we understand, you learned that in the first few lectures on Kabbalah, that the reason we all behave the way we do and the reason we all have our needs and wants is because in Ein Sof, we had all of that, came the Tzimtzum, we lost all of it, and now if you want to know why I have a particular desire for this and others have that, it's because in the Ein Sof, that was what I was filled with, I had it, and the Tzimtzum brought about the disappearance of it. Now all of my activity is what? To get it back, to retrieve it again. Therefore I want this, he wants that, because everybody was filled with another fulfillment. But only because there is emptiness, there is a state of non-fulfillment that creates desire. But if you're filled, it's like the tzaddik, right? Who has everything prepared for him all day. He has his meals, he never has any lack, any need. Then he understands that there are no poor people outside, is there? Right?
But around before Tzimtzum, didn't everybody have everything?
Yes. Yes.
So then why?
Wasn't it the same? Hu Shmo Echad.
Yes.
Before the Tzimtzum, wasn't? I mean, you make it sound like every particle of the vessel had a different desire or a different aspect.
There were infinite amount of desires to receive, because
even
how much could the Lord share? Could he share only kavod? We're talking in metaphysical senses. What could he share?
Everything.
Everything.
Anything
That's
else?
Obviously.
If you shared everything,
Then he must have created, out of necessity, infinite amount and different types of desires to
but I
receive.
thought that the vessel was one vessel that.
Ah,
all
that's the
that
part we don't
quality-
understand. Everything in diversity was Hu Shmo Echad. That's true. We don't. That's the part we don't understand about Ein Sof, and we never will, as long as we are in this corporeal body.
Oh, but it's still
All right.
not-
No, that's true what you're saying.
In other
Yes.
words, it's not even understood to Mekubalim.
No. That can never be understood.
The
Not
part
even
that
to
the
Moshe.
Vessel, that why was the vessel had different intelligence in it?
Different
even before the
diversification.
Tzimtzum?
That's right, and yet it was Hu Shmo, even before the Tzimtzum. How do I know that? Because when I see what happened afterwards, must have, out of necessity, come from where? Where did it all come from? From the Ein Sof? So if there's different desires on this level, where did they all come from?
Right.
It must have existed.
This is
Which
what
means that once we complete the correction,
this was
of
the big revelation and the big hitnagdut to Kabbalah, even to Rabbi Ashlag. How could you discuss Malchut of Ein Sof when we haven't got any idea? So like the Zohar answers, Chok, you're not allowed to eat meat and dairy. And so you ask the Orthodox Jew, why not? Because it says so. We do not believe that's the reason. We have a reason. But he says, but it's a statute. You don't give reasons. That's not true. We know why you don't eat meat and dairy together. There is another aspect that I can never understand. Why he chose meat and dairy never to be reconcilable with each other, which is what you've already learned. But everything understand. But what we see here, people with different desires, where did it come from? How could it come from the Ein Sof? Was his revelation, Rabbi Ashlag. He says, he only asked the question, he says, I don't understand, as it says in volume 1, how that could be a Hu Shmo Echad with diversity. Our mental prowess does not permit us to understand how there could be diversity and in Ein Sof, Hu Shmo Echad. But that does not preclude that therefore there was no diversity in Ein Sof, because I have to ask the other question. Where did it come from? If it didn't come from Ein Sof, where did diversity, different desires to receive, come from? So we understand that since Hashem wanted to share infinitely, not only one kind, but infinite types of sharing, therefore out of necessity he created infinite desires to receive. How could they live in a unified state of Hu Shmo Echad? I can't answer that.
In Basic Torah, is the answer?
That's not even, that's not Sitrei Torah.
That's it. There is no answer to this.
There's that is the one area. Imagine everything else is understood except that.
Well,
Pretty good,
When
no?
we go,
all right.
Everything else is understood, but the only thing we don't understand is that. We'll manage that one if we don't understand.
But if we look and see, the way you said, we were able to look on the other side because it's a reflection of this side. So the way different things can be bound together are by the sameness. The same way as like we are all different here, and we're bound together by the sameness.
We see that there is a
of the
possibility
intensity,
that one can be independent
and yet bound together. with
and yet
others.
be interdependent.
Right.
But this is what the physicist has developed from his observation of the atom, how it lives in such harmony with each other. And yet, the difference between the proton and the electron, I mean, it's day and night.
Does every atom have a different desire?
Yes. Therefore, there are so many atoms.
also,
Therefore, there are so many people also.
Isn't it
Who
the
did it,
electron that makes up what makes one atom different from the next?
Different
It's the
than the
desire,
next?
'cause that's the desire.
Only the electron.
Yeah.
But all electrons from a physicist's point of view is the same, and that is not true, because they haven't got the devices to detect that, and ultimately they will find it, although they're on the wrong track. Imagine now they're going into a project that is going to cost in the area about $790 billion. It'll take a long time, because
How much did
they
you
want to
spend?
get to the bottom of everything. They want to get to the bottom. They're getting into the butts, the bottom. But they forgot the top. If they'd go first to the top, they would have found it and they wouldn't have to spend all that money.
Why do Kabbalists don't explain that to them?
They won't
Time
listen.
didn't come. Now it came. Now it's here.
Why-
Now it's here. Rabbi Ashlag brought Einstein's theory of relativity, not Einstein. We discussed that. We know why Einstein was only robotic
No,
consciousness.
Rabbi, you said they're going to spend $700 billion and
Yeah.
you're aware of it. So
Right.
why don't you call the White House and say, President
Oh, they
Reagan,
listen immediately, right? Everybody listens. I mean, I see those signs up there and all over the billboards warning you're going to get cancer and warning you're going to get this and what, and everybody listens.
Nobody listens.
Oh, nobody listens.
No.
So there must be another part in this universe that even though it's so clear, there's something there tells me not to listen. Is that right? So they may not listen here too. Possibility.
Rob, if you take a glass, sitting in
I want to complete the thought. I want to complete the thought so we can finish this at least today, if it's not absolutely necessary. Go ahead.
It's just in relationship to the vessel. If you take a glass cup, a very fine glass cup, it's a vessel. It receives water, the tea, and all it wants to do is to receive what it's the tea. If you take it and you shatter it, it's going to shatter in an exact way. Every piece is going to break just the way it's supposed to break. Every piece now can have a different desire. But when they were together, all they wanted was to get
Nice,
the tea.
nice. Okay. That's if you're ready to admit that each crystal in the glass
Break even.
is another energy
Will
intelligence.
break the way it's supposed
That
to
each
break.
thought energy
But it's
intelligence is
separated
different.
because of its desire to receive.
Because
It'll
each
separate
one, yeah,
bigger and
but they can
smaller.
live together. But when they're shattered, every one is a separate energy intelligence.
The desire to receive changed.
No,
No.
no, it became manifest. It went out of the state of unification. Even at that, it's a nice example. I don't want to limit it to that
No,
because a glass can't live together with a book.
just a vessel.
So its unification process ends at a certain point. But just a thought.
That can also prove that the atoms are different inside.
How?
That's what we
By,
say.
by it being different shape, different...
You mean the atom is in a table, here the atom is in a... so they'll tell you they're not here yet. Where we are already, they're not there. They'll tell you, but the atoms remain the same. It is only the wood that really makes the impression. But then Chaim would ask, wait a second, are you telling me that the 1% really has such an influence on the 99% that it can change things? Right? Then they'll also tell you, you're right, Chaim. I forgot about what I learned in college. That is true. Uncertainty, that we really shouldn't give so much importance to the physical thought. Because they use that, it shows you how contradictory they are. First they'll tell you, like you said, the atoms are all the same. Whether they're in a table, whether they're in a glass, it's all the same. Right? It's the table that makes the whole difference. The answer is yes and no. Why? Because how could you say the table and the glass because they're two different things? You yourself believe that there's uncertainty, that it's only an illusion, that the glass is maybe no glass, that the glass is the table and the table is the glass. It's possible, they say. Right? So where is the importance? Should be in the 99%. And 99% because this atom has this kind of desire to receive. He came here, and this atom came here. Oh, wait a second. Now you're telling me atoms have the intelligence of man? It has.
But they're robotic.
That's the only difference. That is the only difference. They have a tremendous amount of intelligence, far superior than most people. However, most people are those who do not think. Therefore, the atom seems to be a powerful object. But on Shabbat, we control the atoms in those chalot. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. the atom is an atom, and I say you are now going to become Yud K Vav K of the right column, he's going to listen to me. I believe that. No, I shouldn't say I believe it. I know it. I know it. He's going to be, because I am in control of this universe, not he. Not he. Therefore, just to conclude, I want you to remember this thought, because I want to quote this week's Parsha in Chayei Sarah. It's so beautiful. It demonstrates from Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Ashlag never claimed that he said he was, and that made the difference between Einstein and Rabbi Ashlag. Einstein, when he revealed his theory of relativity, wow, can you imagine me? Right? But when that same theory developed into a quantum, in his mind now took over. You see, when he revealed the theory of relativity, I say it was purely robotic. He was the channel, and it was revealed. Then, after that was revealed, he's now the greatest going since high button shoes. So everything he says is kadosh. To the extent that once he finished his job of the general theory of relativity, for the next 30 years, he battled all other physicists who already proved the quantum theory, and he refused to recognize it as being real. But yet, this is what you yourself, this should have been the logical conclusion of what you said. No, until here, not further. That's right, Einstein. Because until here, you were robotic consciousness. After that, you have to see what they tell him. They said, Einstein, you're not thinking anymore, you're becoming rational. Imagine this is what they told him. What they told him. I mean, it's a crazy thing to say, to a man like that, right? That's what they told him.
He didn't jump into Ruach. He stayed in the initial flash. And then
He was never anyway, because he was robotic conscious. I want to get to Rabbi Ashlag, that he said, I never wrote anything. I was told, Rabbi Ashlag, I never wrote anything. It was purely robotic consciousness. The pen wrote. To the end. Not after he finished his 8,000-page volume of the Zohar, or his 16-volume Talmud Sefirot, and the other infinite. You know what Velikovsky told me? I mean, you should know it. I said, the man wrote 8,000 here, 2,000 here.
What?
Pages of work. He says it's all, because I was telling him in essence what some of the concepts, all babble. I says, show me one other person who wrote so much. How much can you babble? I mean, a guy can sit really and write and write and write. Show me that you can sit down from now and write 8,000 pages. Let me see you do it. What do you think? It's easy to write, even stupidity, just to write. You think it's an easy thing to write 8,000 pages without writing anything?
It must have been a channel.
It's a short life, too.
What's that?
It was 60
Yeah, that's right. In that short period of time, because
He wasn't Mekubal,
that's
he
right.
was,
Not when he was
15,
born. That's right. So he just wrote. I says, how could you say something like that? Because he was already set in his own ideas, and then at the end they said he was crazy too. But in any event, I want to say that he never wrote anything. And Rabbi Shimon, which I want to read, said it so beautifully in this week's Parsha. All that we're saying, this new way of thinking, that not the desire comes first, but the atom tells the table, look, reveal me, right? It begins with the atom saying to the table, reveal me. Not the wood says, okay, I'm going to reveal. I'm the whole thing. The wood is no place here. That's why it's uncertain. Why? Is the wood, are we the most important thing here? Or is it the light? Which is it? Without us, it's both. So they said uncertainty, and we say it's both. It's the only difference between we and the physicist. He says it's uncertain. Because I see like this, I say, We say, no, they both exist and both complement each other.
At the
Both
same
are not,
time.
that's right, at the same time.
Sorry, what both exist?
They complement each other.
What?
The Malchut
Oh.
doesn't want it.
The fish is-
And he's not the one that's ever going to handle the outer circle of the pebble with the water. Never. Never. Wait a second. If there was no impact, there would be nothing. True. True. Why? Because there could be no revelation without that tremendous but's desire of, gimme, I need it. Without it, nothing happens.
But on some level, aren't you, at that point, aren't you observing to some degree, a minor degree, when you're getting closer and closer, you're observing more and more of some degree of
That's right.
and there may be that's where their confusion is. They can't decide which is taking precedence, and if you observe one, you don't see
Or,
the-
that's right. If you see one, you can't see the other. That's what they said. That's how the uncertainty principle comes. You can't see the whole picture at one time. They proved it mathematically. You can see, if you're watching it from its beginning, the moment you change here, that's something else. That's where the chair became an illusion. Right? When I see the chair, that's what you see. The moment you turn your head away from the chair, it doesn't exist. Because you can't see both things. You can't see not seeing the chair and seeing the chair at the same time. Right? Physically, you can't. Therefore, everything, no. That's the illusionary part. You could be in two places at the same time.
It's the two aspects, because you have the potential of the chair that you cannot see that is there, and then you have the chair itself that is revealed. Okay.
When you have a desire to reveal it.
But it's always there.
But it's there.
Not even a potential.
That's
No
right.
matter what.
No matter
All
what.
right, we use potential in a sense metaphysical, but potential doesn't mean that it's not there. That's the mistake too. When you say a man has a potential, the psychiatrist tells you 95% of your potential you don't even reveal. Could you tell me where it is, maybe, and I'll grab it and I'll make it become revealed? I mean, what is he saying? Telling me 95% of my potential. What is he talking about? Is that me or isn't it me?
How does he even know if he's only
How does he even?
85%?
That's right. That's what I asked a long time ago. That's what I asked about the physicist who says the world is 5 billion years old, not 8, but 5. I said, you can't even tell me how about something that is 125 years old, because most people don't live 120. What is the span of 125 years? Explain it to me. He's never experienced it. Is that right? So how does he explain something that you didn't experience? Don't we also learn in school? Listen to the man with experience. So why do they live by that law? They also have been taught that, and they live by that too. Because the older physicists will tell the younger physicists, listen, when you'll have all my experience. You know, I mean, they're so contradictory, it's not funny anymore. But here is no contradictions. These are two paradoxes. This is a paradox of two aspects that can live very well with each other. Therefore, when we ask why does Keter stay, why does that outer circle stay unrevealed? Why? If we know, first of all, at the end, it does become revealed. And we know that which became revealed later obviously had to be in a potential state before. Why doesn't that before happen? Why must it happen later? And the answer is, because until Malchut becomes revealed, that energy intelligence called the impact of the pebble doesn't become revealed. What is Keter? Now, it just passed this point. What is Keter? How much desire to receive does it have?
Small. Very little.
Almost nothing. And what's the rule of the universe? That before there is a need or a desire to share, receive, there can be no revelation. Sure, the thing is here. It exists. The light exists all the time, whether it will be revealed or it won't be revealed. But there's another rule that the light must live by, that the Creator must live by. What's that rule? You want to share, Creator? You want to share?
Create the desire to receive.
That's right. Wait until I want it. But to give it to me without my wanting.
I'm not ready.
And in Keter, there's no obvious. There's no aviut. There's no density. Even its malchut is nothing to talk about. Even its malchut is nothing to talk about. Because there's malchut in the seed too. Is the fruit in the seed?
Yes.
Of course. But there, when you look at the seed and try to perceive the fruit, what do you see? Nothing. Nothing. Still nothing. Even though we know without a doubt that the fruit is there. But that's the rule of the game. That only when you have that desire to receive,
Then it's revealed.
if you've got action. So we think about the purity of the Mukubal. He's got no desires. Imagine if he had my desires for lust, women, gambling, and everything else. Would he behave that way? He doesn't have the desires. That he's not a Mukubal. He may not live by the guys in Atlantic City because he says, oh, boy, would I love to roll the dice. Wait a second. I want all the pleasure of rolling the dice. All of it. How do I get all of it? By not going. Oh. Right? Any other way? That's what we learned.
Then he doesn't
Yes.
take the pleasure of going.
He wants all of it. No, he doesn't want just the rolling the. Didn't we just say that was 1%? He wants the circle, the big circles. He doesn't want the little circle.
How about the 100%?
He wants the roulette.
Time out. How about the 100%? Take the 99, and then he says, okay, now I want also the 1%.
There's only one problem with that. What's the problem? The minute you take
Then you lose
the 99%, you don't even have the 1%. All you do is you lose your money at the table, right?
There's no
Ask me, I'll tell you.
the answer against you.
Either it's true or it's not true, right? But how do I know it's true? Because the whole world, on the metaphysical level, together with the physicists, it seems to point up to this idea that without a malchut, that's why Keter cannot be. It cannot even have all of it at one time. Because it didn't reach the point of mud, the point where it can say no. Because Keter should say no. And Keter has its malchut, and it goes through that little big bang, by the way. Goes through it. Or not, it wouldn't happen. The root wouldn't come out.